Welcome back to WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton. It's 8:34 on a Friday morning, and Mark McKenzie here. I am Gary Sutton, and glad to be with you. And our next guest called in yesterday. He was listening to the show, as he should, and he called in as we were talking with Aaron Anderson and Mike Anthony yesterday about illegal aliens and so forth, and he wanted to get something in. It was right at the end of the show, and I wanted to give him a chance. He happens to be the appropriations chairman for the State House. He is State Representative Stan Saylor, who joins us here this morning. Good morning, State Representative Saylor. How are you?
I'm doing great, Gary.
Well,
how are you guys doing?
We're always doing well. I mean, we're happy. You know, every day is a butterflies and balloons day for us. Doesn't matter if it's gloomy outside. Inside here, it's happy and light and friendly and good to have you in. You wanted to comment yesterday on what Aaron and Mike were talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's missed when we talk about illegal immigration is what are the consequences of a lot of that. And, you know, not everybody covers the news on what's going on. One of the problems we have, of course, is human trafficking here throughout the United States. Some of it, not all of it, come across the border where people are bringing children that don't belong to them and then bringing them here to the United States and using them for sex trafficking. Women, the same thing. We in Pennsylvania we're ranked 10th in the country in sex trafficking.
Wow.
And I think people miss that. The other thing that is being affected by the whole illegal immigration and the border crossing problems, Gary, is, of course, this fentanyl and the drugs coming across, which is also a part of human trafficking. Many people miss that as well, is because people get so addicted to the drugs, they sell themselves for the sex trafficking industry, and a lot of these drugs are coming from Mexico. So we have a real problem in this country on sex trafficking. Just here in Pennsylvania in 2018, we had over 275 cases of it. And this is children, it's women, and we had probably somewhere in the last, I'll say, 10 years, about 5,000 people who have been basically sold into the sex market and human trafficking. And that's a real concern. And I think we have to pay attention to what's going on at the border and when these people come across the border, are they truly coming across in their own will, or are they being brought across by other individuals to be sold into the human trafficking industry? One
of the things that bothers me most in this whole conversation that we're having nationally on this is that people say, well, not everybody's a criminal. The president made it sound like everybody's a criminal. And I know he didn't. I believe the president said in his State of the Union address that, you know, we welcome people to come here through the front door. We want people to come here. I've said many times I'm opposed to illegal aliens coming in here and getting rights, but that's because I want them to have the same rights that I have, not some rights that are given to them by people who sneak them in and then threaten to throw them out. I want them to have all the rights and privileges I have, and I think a lot of us feel that way. It's not an anti-anybody. And so we have this kind of conversation going on that has this big gulf or chasm in it. Are you seeing the same thing, Stan?
Absolutely. I mean, look at our food banks and stuff like that. Look at California. I was in San Francisco back in October, and I'd been there years ago on a trip, and this time I was out there on business, and it looks like a third world country in San Francisco. Because they can't manage it. There's so many people who come into San Francisco that are homeless. It's the first time, and I've traveled to Israel, I've been to Ireland, I've been to Mexico, and when I got to my hotel in San Francisco and checked in, it is the first time in my lifetime that I was handed a piece of paper to tell me about being careful to walk outside the hotel. Told me not to talk to people when I walked outside the hotel. Make sure your wallet's in the front pocket. Don't stop and talk, you know, all these kind of things. And I'm thinking, I'm in America. I'm being told I can't stop on the street. I'm not to talk to anybody on the street because I might be accosted. And I'm thinking, you know, we have to, I'm like you. I'm a real believer. If somebody's coming to this country, even illegal immigrants, I want to make sure they have the same resources we have and the people who've come here illegally. But these people aren't living a better life here in the United States when they come here, a lot of them. A lot of them are living on the streets. They're living in poverty, so they haven't escaped anything. And what we're seeing, for instance, in California and even New Jersey, for instance, in New Jersey, they're losing population because 1 in 4 New Jersey individuals have said they are planning to leave New Jersey in the next 5 years because of what's going on there. In California, they've lost 1 million people to Texas and Arizona and other states because the taxes have gotten so high to try and handle this problem that they can't stay in that state. I talked to a taxi cab driver when I was in San Francisco, and he said, Stan, I'm leaving here. I have a young family. I'm an Uber driver, but I can't afford to pay. I have a bedroom apartment for my child and my wife, and the rent keeps going up, and I can't do this. I'm moving to Texas. And it's placing a burden on average people who live paycheck to paycheck. These people can't afford to have higher taxes to pay for illegal immigrants.
And then, of course, we have people who say, well, let's make the rich pay for the whole thing then. And so what do we see now? An exodus of people from New York who are wealthy people. And the private sector will always outdo the public sector every time, and they head off to where? Florida, Texas. We see people rolling out of there. And then there's this insane kind of thing that says, well, you should want to stay here and pay taxes. Why? No, nobody tries to go in and figure out how many more taxes they can pay every year by April 15th. They're trying to figure out ways in which they can have a less of a tax burden. And so this twisted theory that somehow the government, in making us pay more taxes, is really doing its job. The government ought to be trying to, going back to your original point, raise people up and let them be independent, not dependent. And the more you preach dependence and you cater down to people and you cave in standards, the more we're seeing the San Franciscos of the world sprouting up here in this country, where you're getting a piece of paper that says, don't go outside, be careful when you go outside, here's what you have to watch. That's not the way we ought to be operating right now.
No, and, people who say the accusation, well, people who don't like illegal immigrants are racist and everything else. No, these are people who also see, and many, we're the most generous country in the world, and that goes for almost 99% of Americans, okay,
right,
who do care about other individuals. They don't just care about themselves, and this is even people who are working paycheck to paycheck, or people who are on public assistance even today care about other people. But we have to take care of people to make sure they have a quality of life, and people are missing that. It's not about just coming across the border and being in the United States. It's about the quality of life these people are getting.
And I think we have to teach them also.
Offer them a quality of life.
Yeah, and I think we also have to help them to take care of themselves to the extent that they can. Yes, there should be assistance. There's no question about that. But the idea that we tether people to the government and we say to them on the other side, well, yeah, you're going to come here. It's going to be better. It's going to be a little better, but it's not going to be as good as what I have. That's the dirty little secret that's being preached, and we're using them, whether it's Republicans using them for cheap labor or Democrats using them for cheap votes ultimately or whatever it might be. The idea that we're saying we'll give you some of that liberty, that is the biggest cheat ever. The United States is a land of total opportunity, total liberty if you want to take advantage of it. Yes, the road might be harder for some than others. That's okay, but it's there.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. Coming to this country is something a lot of people want to do, but we can't take everybody. Mexico's fortunate they're right on our border. There's a lot of people who want to come here from other countries that are across the ocean, across the Atlantic.
And you don't come here to be a refugee
or wherever.
Yeah, you don't come here to be a refugee in a refugee camp. By the way, I've got to ask you one tough question. 45 seconds ago, you may know what it is. So your name's being bandied about for Speaker of the House. Any interest there? Any movement you could share with us at all?
Well, the Speaker has not officially announced when he's leaving.
Right.
So is there an interest? Absolutely, there is an interest to become the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, I've seen your name in the top 2 or 3 names, and I just thought I'd throw that a little bit, and that you made a little news for us this morning. I appreciate that. So coming from you, it means a lot. Stan, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning. Appreciate you listening to the show. Please tell all your legislative delegation they should be doing the same thing constantly, and even take time off from a session or two, and they can listen in.
If I could say one last thing, Gary, if people know of people who are in this human trafficking industry, please call.
Yes.
Please call. Don't let this go on. This is a terrible thing for children and women to have to put up with.
And call your local representative, call the police, whoever you need to call, but get to them. Stan, thanks so much. Problem we're going to keep our eye on, and maybe we can talk more about it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
8:44 here on WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton. When we come back, I'll tell you what's in the swag bag for the 2020 Oscars, and Mark's got another interesting look back at something. We'll do that next on WSBA.